We're rolling up on the 2-year mark since Icebox initial release back in October of 2020. Since then, we've gotten 4 individual map updates, a complete artistic overhaul, and hundreds of matches of pro play to study. And even after all of this, players are still exclusively 5-manning the A site like it's Black Friday. Welcome back to Esports Driven, and today we'll be thoroughly documenting the optimal strategies on the attacker side to make the map with a literal pseudonym of prison feel a little less like an uphill battle. We first need to understand the intended play cycle of the map. Icebox is a map that starts out very limited to the attackers, judging by the buy phase barriers alone. Going to either side of the map's long entrances is essentially a gauntlet of angles to watch out for, especially without any scouting utility like a Sova drone. Icebox is also the only map with a single mid entrance, which is where some of the initial hesitation comes from getting value from the lane. Walking up requires you to take a fight with a potential player holding the boiler angle, which functions as the main power position for the defenders to capitalize on. But as far as that angle is made unusable with the obvious choke being a smoke, it becomes pretty effortless to go and run up to any of these given paths. Let's briefly discuss some agent compositions. While pro play tells us that the agent meta is pretty stale, with an indomitable presence from Viper, Chamber, Sova, and Sage, these agent picks don't matter quite as much in a solo queue environment. To start, just like every one of these guides, you're going to want a Fade. Her omniscience to how a round plays out is simply undeniable, and in a world where platinum players just want to run up and take aggressive fights, Fade will stifle any one of their attempts. Fade also just does Sova's job on top of being easier to learn and more applicable in the ranked environment. Let's get some smokes on the board, and we do mean the plural version. While it's low-key hilarious how high the Viper pick rate is for Icebox at an unstoppable 100%, we also don't think she functions very well as a solo controller. Assessing anywhere mid-map doing this goofy mid-orb is next to impossible, as all of the areas you'd want to smoke are inaccessible to Viper. So to fix this, we're going to add Brimstone to the mix. Fills the role of a proper smoke for each time the Viper wall just isn't enough. His long-lasting smokes are perfect for a big map like Icebox, as there's a lot of ground to cover on direct sight executes, and the stim beacon pairs nicely with this. We also want him for this default smoke we place on boiler every round to consistently deny the first point of contact the defenders can have onto your team. Returning to the topic of Viper, her ability to cut off multiple sight lines and repurpose them as post-plant tools is incredible. Having multiple mollies to clear corners and deny positions is a blessing to have in an otherwise chaotic map, especially by keeping the defenders from retaking the B site. As a cherry on top, Icebox is our pick for the best Viper ultimates in the game, and will often single-handedly win out a round when placed correctly. Next, we're gonna hire Chamber, as he can fully capitalize on the multitude of off angles featured on the map, and catch defenders off guard with his advanced positioning. With countless long sight lines, his Headhunter and Tour de Force makes crossing any angle a potential death sentence to the opponents. And obviously every great team composition hosts a Sentinel, so we'll be keeping track of any flankers with his trademark. Our final choice resides in Sage, the infamous and often poorly utilized Sentinel on this map. Sage is already just a great ranked pick, as her ability to solo defend a bomb site as well as correct teammate mistakes with her heals and resurrection is unparalleled. But with so many angles and paths to worry about, shutting down a specific lane to access deeper site control is godsent for site executes. And don't forget that super OP wall and kitchen to anchor the zone for the round. We like seeing that. So with the optimal team comp for ranked purposes, what areas of the map should be consistently taken and what areas should be generally avoided? We first have to acknowledge that the A site, whether from laziness or ignorance, seems to be the hotspot for both attackers and defenders. The thing about the A site is that it's an echo chamber. It has no influence from anywhere outside the map besides within itself. So by rushing here almost every round, it essentially boils down to the gunfights and who wins them, rather than who can outbrain the other. So if this fits your playstyle, we'll cover just how to do that. Start by attaining control of this opening box, as if this area is being contested, you're in for a rough time. This angle showcased here is a super common way to get picked off, so to avoid this you can do two things. You can safely sniff out any potential danger by jiggle peeking it like from elbow, or if you're lazy, just jump off belt like this. Once your team is posted up, clear out generator and behind the 410 boxes with various pieces of utility. The hardest area to get control of is top rafters, so instead of fighting it at a deficit, we can just cleverly smoke it off with a Viper lineup. Plant top sight like this, as it maximizes the amount of angles you can play off the spike, and makes landing various mollies up here child's play. Planting top sight like this also allows a mid lurk to spot the spike in case something goes terribly wrong on sight. But let's play the map like it was intended, and for once get value from the highlighted zones shown here. Let's slap down the boiler smoke we mentioned earlier and move up into the opening mid zone. Now what? That depends on where you want to end the round. It's a bad idea to rush mid as a 5-man, as the last thing you want to happen is to get pinched from multiple lanes at once. We find the most success from mid play comes from the B splits, as both going kitchen and the under tube have direct access to the relevant site. The thing to look out for is the common chamber trip placed here in kitchen, so be on the ready to shoot it out before any of your teammates get stuck. With our Sage pick, we can wall off the defender kitchen entrance like this, so they have to break 3 whole pieces before entering, and what happens 99% of the time is they just ignore it and surrender that section of the map. Our Fade will haunt and prowler out any rats sitting in B main and yellow, and the team will meet up on the bomb site. Icebox is one of the few maps where we'd actually recommend sending the spike mid, as getting it down top side of B makes retaking as a defender close to impossible, combined with our already strong kitchen control. If things go south, or if the A site seems weak due to the loads of players stacking mid/B, the mid teammates can simply fall back to A main from spawn, or take the A site directly from pallet. Since we went mid, hunkering down closer to their spawn adds a whole new layer of danger the defenders will have to worry about when retaking. Finally, let's hit the B site directly. Same routine with Fade as mentioned earlier. Trade out anyone sitting close green and yellow and move up to the site. We're going to showcase one of the biggest misconceptions in the game, and is the strategy so many rounds have unfortunately been thrown to. By doing this traditional Viper and Sage wall combo, you're limiting your team to this microscopic zone featuring yellow and the end of green to play around, on top of the gauntlet of utility you usually have to fight through just to get the spike down on corner site. If you want to delve deeper into why this strategy just sucks, we have a fantastic video on the top right of your screen where we discuss the relevant phenomena and why it's actually more harmful than it is beneficial. Let's get site control the intended way. Reorient the diagonal Viper wall like this, so we cut off 2 major angles at once, orange and snow pile. This lets your team wrap around the bomb site by pinching like this. Some players come in close and the others come in hanging the danger wall. Within seconds you've cleared the site, as there's virtually 2 angles a defender could even be, which is behind the container and top site. Move up into the power positions and plant the spike top site like we did on A. Now that the site is clear, your team will have the confidence to utilize this underrated map feature and set up that impossible retake for the defenders like we did on the mid B split. Our Sage can wall off any of the 4 lanes available to her, including orange, snow pile, kitchen, or snowman. Each of these placements are beneficial and will further stifle a retake from occurring. We'll have chambers yellow watching the flank and holding the long angles, a player under site watching orange, a player top side watching kitchen, and a player hugging the danger wall supporting any one of their teammates. You'll quickly notice how nice it feels to hold the actual bomb site, then hide away in some faraway zone that requires you to win a boatload of dry fights just to clutch up the round. But we neglected to mention the art of lurking, which is a common staple of the map, so go check out our guide on mid control, which will set you up with dozens of easy kills just by consistently placing down some utility. And be sure to let us know what you think of this guide by using the comments down below. Alright, we'll catch you next time.